Howdy folks, pretty cool scene here. River rafters heading down the Ganges. It's a cloudy, somewhat cool day. But gotta soak up that cool weather while it lasts. It's gonna be getting hot around India, and I am headed to the desert tomorrow. I hop on a train from Haridwar, which is about a 30 minutes bus ride from Rishikesh on down the Ganges there, and do an overnight train trip to Bikaner in Rajasthan state. And from there I will be making my way out to Jaisalmer, which is further into the Thar desert of Rajasthan near the Pakistan border. I've been there before. I've done this exact same trip, the same train trip. I think it might even be the same schedule. Leaves in the evening, gets there around 10 in the morning. It's going to be pretty hot out there, so I'm just going to do like a quick 1-2 week desert adventure and then head back for the Himalayas. Here I'm in the foothills of the Himalayas, but I'm going to head for a different region, probably around Manali or else maybe Dharamsala, which is where the Dalai Lama hangs out. Or doesn't hang out, meditates intensely, I'm sure. So looking forward to seeing the desert. It's a really awesome area, and it's going to be some amazing landscapes and fun exploring, and I love camels, and there's lots of camels out there. So yesterday I saw Mooji, and it was quite an amazing experience. He's been in Rishikesh for the past 5 weeks doing satsangs every morning, and so I'd been intending to make it there for the past 2 weeks that I've been here and just hadn't got around to it. I tend to sleep in. And so I finally made it yesterday, and it was a really awesome experience, and I just wanted to just kind of share my thoughts on the event itself, and then Mooji's teachings and some of the different exchanges that occurred in the course of the 2-hour satsang. They call it a satsang, but a satsang is kind of more songs, I'm pretty sure, whereas this was just talking, just question and answer, Mooji asking or answering people's questions that they were asking, and there was a song at the very end. That was it. So it was a 2-hour event, and Mooji is a pretty deep guy for sure. I'd seen a few of his videos on YouTube and just had a general sense that he seemed like a pretty cool guy and seemed like he was pretty right on. But being there in person and seeing the exchange and feeling his energy and seeing the depth of his thought processes and his knowledge and his style and character and the humor that he interjected, as well as just the depth of his consciousness and some shenanigans going on there with the river rafters. So I was overall definitely quite impressed, and it was really quite a moving experience. So there were definitely some interesting exchanges, people coming up and sharing some very heartfelt experiences of theirs and asking deep questions, and some questions that Mooji just did not care for and said, basically, go away, I don't want to answer that one. And I appreciated his honesty. He'd said that at one point in the discussion, that I want to hear some real depth here, and if I'm not that interested in what you're asking, then I'm just going to ask you to stop and we'll move on to somebody else. So one person asked about love, and Mooji's answer was, don't go for love, go for freedom. And Mooji is a student of Advaita and non-duality, which I will confess that I have basically no understanding of, just kind of a vague general concept, something I definitely like to study and learn more about the particulars of that particular path. But Mooji was saying basically, love as we conceive of it is a rather distorted projection of our own attachments, and that it's just another mess to get mired in. And I'm not quite sure what to think of what he said, because I felt like maybe he was a little too dismissive. He was especially saying romantic love is something to not get entangled in, and I don't think that he meant, I'm assuming he wasn't like anti-relationships or anything like that, but I think he was just saying like shoot for the gold basically. And when you focus on enlightenment, on inner freedom from attachments, then love comes to you, and that you simply reveal the love within yourself, and you're not going out there trying to get love, trying to find somebody to fill the void within you. And so I definitely see the wisdom in what he was saying there. And I would have to learn some more about his particular teachings and that strain of thought and everything to have a better grasp on it. But it was definitely very, very revealing, and some pretty deep stuff there. So another exchange, and this one was really interesting, was this young guy, or I don't know, 30-ish or something, comes up to the microphone with two young Indian boys from Rishikesh, and I actually recognized all three of them. Both the young guy, I'd seen him hanging out at the Ghats where I recorded a video of some cool music, and he was sitting right next to me. And the two, or at least one of the Indian boys, I recognize as well as having seen around here. And so he goes up to the microphone and says to Mooji, "Why don't you talk more about selfless service? Because anyone who is genuinely enlightened should make selfless service to others, their main tenet, their main teaching and purpose in life." And there was definitely an edge of sort of guilt or something like that. He was trying to make a point to the audience more than that he was asking a genuine, heartfelt question of Mooji, and Mooji was totally onto that. And he said, "I'm not falling for that trick of sort of that guilt-ridden trick of why aren't you saving the world? Why aren't you helping the poor and the needy?" And one of the things that he said was, there are many forms of service. It's not just helping the poor and the needy as the only way to help people or help the world or contribute. There are many, many different forms of service. Your art can be your service. Your enlightenment can be a service to the world. And I'm totally paraphrasing here. And then another thing that he said was, don't assume these are the ones in need and you're the provider, basically. That this is basically a stance of arrogance to assume these poor people, they have nothing, they probably have only 10 rupees to their name, hardly any clothing, who knows where they sleep at night. Therefore, I'm superior, basically, or just I'm better off than they are, and so thus I have an obligation to try to help these people out. And first of all, just the obvious point to be made is one's material possessions does not equate to their level of happiness. And this is something that is just so ingrained in us that we don't realize it. I've walked through slums of India and seen a lot more smiling faces than on the subway of New York City or elsewhere walking around whatever town in the United States. Whether they're happier or less happy in conditions that we might not be comfortable with is really not for us to say. And certainly if you want to be of service to someone, provide that which you have abundance of to someone straight from your heart, that's great, go for it. But to not come from this place of, oh, these poor people, I have to help them out because I'm so advantaged in relation to them, is just a complete misunderstanding of life, of this earth plane, You don't know what their real experience is, how much they enjoy their day versus yourself. You don't know what their life's lessons are. They may have come here to this earth to be a crippled beggar on the streets of India for their life, for the sake of their learning experience for their soul. And so to say, well, enlightenment must therefore mean that you're going to devote your life to helping the needy. This is actually quite a shallow worldview, and it may genuinely come from a place of wanting to make the world a better place, certainly, but that's really not, enlightenment doesn't mean you should do anything. This actually leads to one of the most important spiritual teachings in my view, which is that where we need to come to in our spiritual path and our life is a place of self-acceptance, not a place of self-denial. And this is such a prevalent viewpoint that spirituality means being selfless, denial of the self, only focusing on others, destruction of the ego, basically coming to a place of that I don't matter, it's the rest of the world that matters, and then you're enlightened because you don't care about yourself. And I think this is completely and utterly flawed. And what this does is it creates a world of denial, quite simply. If you're practicing self-denial, then you are going to relate to others from that place in which you are relating to yourself, and you are going to expect others to deny themselves. We are all reflections of one another, and affirmation of another cannot be done without affirmation of oneself. Acceptance of others, non-judgment, the genuine desire for others to be able to meet their needs and their desires must necessarily come from a place within yourself in which you have acceptance for your own desires and needs and wants and your basic just essence of being. So this is really the principle of namaste, which says I recognize you as another myself, basically, which is that if you genuinely want to see more love and abundance and acceptance and peace and non-judgment in the world, then you have to apply that to others and yourselves equally, or at least as equally as you can. And the path of self-denial is one that just creates more strife in the world, in my view. And so I think that was more or less underlying what Mooji was getting at, is that this view that you have to just focus on others, and that's either the path to enlightenment or the path of enlightenment once you get there is false. That you can be happy, you can enjoy your life, you can just do things in your life for yourself, for your own enjoyment. Obviously there is imbalance in that direction if you don't give a shit about anyone else and you're just focused on your own needs. That's one imbalance. The other imbalance is completely denying yourself in favor of others. And so the idea is to find some kind of a balance here. And here I'm really more just expressing my own thoughts on this. But I think that was more or less where Mooji was coming from, and I appreciated that he nipped that belief at the bud right there and didn't fall for his this guy's assertion that why aren't you talking more about selfless service and helping the poor and all this, even though this is perfectly good and valid stuff. But where are you coming from? Where are you coming from within yourself? That's what matters. Life is not an obligation to be fulfilled. We didn't come here just to fulfill a list of duties, tick down a list of things that we were supposed to do because whoever said so, or we feel obligated to. We're here to be here now, to enjoy this moment, and if your actions spring from that place of enjoyment of your own being, of genuinely being here in this moment and having self-acceptance and self-love, and just radiating your light, your actions are going to create that which you embody. And if you're in a state of, I'm supposed to do this or I'm supposed to do that, that is a whole different frame of mind of being. And you're going to create energy from that place of being that reflects that. So I definitely agreed with what he was saying there. I watched a few other videos of his after the fact, a couple on Kundalini that somebody posted on Facebook, and I'm not quite sure if I agreed with him on what he was saying. I mean, I would have to dig deeper again, but he was basically saying Kundalini awakening and these types of spiritual sort of revelations and awakening experiences are really actually a distraction from true freedom. That these are experiences, and that true freedom, enlightenment, pure awareness, whatever you want to call it, is beyond experiences and events in your life, and that one should not be focused on trying to bring about these types of experiences. And I actually agree with this to some extent. My video that I did recently, Don't Try to Awaken Kundalini, the part 2, that's basically what I was saying, was that the important thing is to be as deeply in the present moment as you can, and then see what arises as a result of it. But in the videos in which he was talking about Kundalini, he almost seemed to be saying, bypass these experiences, don't get caught up in them or distracted by them. Whereas I would say that they are actually, or at least can be, extremely important sort of gateways along the spiritual path of coming into greater presence of being. That Kundalini awakening and various other types of these spiritual awakenings and various experiences are a matter of opening to a deeper aspect of your own being, and of opening to a greater channel of energy, of divine energy within you. And that these can be very necessary portals of sorts to coming to a place of a greater and deeper consciousness. And so I don't see them as distractions. I see these spiritual experiences and various other experiences, depending on how you work with them, as essential components, elements of the spiritual path, of perhaps ultimately getting to that place of pure awareness of being that is beyond our conception of having a blissful experience, or having a Kundalini awakening, or communing with angels, or whatever these like peak experiences that we have, and we're like, wow, this is so amazing, and then afterwards we're thinking back on it, and wow, I wish I could get back to that experience because it was so awesome. Why didn't it last forever? And so I certainly see some wisdom in what he was saying there, that to be attached to any of these experiences is to come out of the moment, and that it's really ultimately about being fully present here. So I think I've rambled on more than enough here, but definitely some juicy, thought-provoking stuff to consider. And so I appreciate what he had to say, and I may not necessarily agree with everything he has to say, but nobody has it all right, and disagreement and alternate points of view is part of the whole deal. So there you go. I definitely recommend checking Mooji out. I think he has a lot of very interesting and wise and thought-provoking stuff to offer. So, all right, take it.